So this is the first video from Module 5, and in Module 5 you're going to be focused on conceptualization and measurement. This is an incredibly important and also incredibly detailed presentation because this is basically the foundation of your research proposal. Everything is going to have to build from the concepts covered here. And what we're basically going to look at in this module is the idea of how do you go from an idea of something that you're interested in researching to actually putting it down in a way that makes it easy to measure. In the introduction to this course, you see an example of a concept called grit. And I encourage you to check out those links because the concept of grit is something that you may have heard of. That girl's got grit, or that person's really gritty. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be gritty? So conceptualization is something that takes an idea, a concept, and really tries to lay out the different parts of it. Usually this means defining it. You know, are there three main things, for example, that somebody must have to have grit? What does it really mean to be gritty? But then when you're doing research, you have to measure things. And often, especially when you're doing quantitative research, you have to show either some kind of a change, whether something increases or decreases. So how can you tell if one person is grittier than the next? Are there certain questions that they can answer that help you indicate their level of grittiness? Is there a scale? Is there an observation of the number of behaviors that make somebody grittier than another? So these are the types of things that you're going to look at in this module. Make sure that you understand the structure of a research question. This was covered in Module 2, so go back to that and review if you need a refresher. Make sure that you understand the concepts of variables and what an independent variable is and a dependent variable. Those are the two most important things to understand. So you have a video that was shared in Module 2, definitions of what those are, as well as a couple of examples to help you work through that. This again was reviewed, so make sure you see how you go from an independent variable, how you take your research question, what variables are in that research question, and some of the ways that you're going to measure that. So once you have that research question, how do we actually begin to measure that? So let's say I want to measure things like depression and substance abuse. How can I actually separate those to be able to get information about that? So let's go through that process. The first step is conceptualization. And so in conceptualization, we're basically looking at that idea. So if I'm talking about substance abuse or depression, those are both ideas. So conceptualization means that I have that idea, I'm thinking in my head more or less what I want to do, but I need to take it from just this general idea to take something specific that I can actually get information about. Because if I can't take that idea and really get it down to something very concrete on paper, then I'm not going to be able to capture information on it. So the next step, once you are thinking about what you want to do and the different elements of it, is getting a nominal definition. And a nominal definition basically just means you give it a name and you define it. So again, let's say that I am in clinical practice and I start seeing people experiencing symptoms that I then realize, you know what, I think what they're going through is substance abuse. I think this is addiction. So I've given it a name and then I want to give it a specific definition. These definitions need to reflect your understanding of the issue. They need to be specific, but they also need to be concise. We're going to move to a different kind of definition in a little bit. You're going to then look at an operational definition. So you've thought about the idea, you've given it a name, you've given it a general definition. How do you operationalize it? That means, how do you actually turn it into numbers or measurements where you can figure out, how do I know if somebody does have a substance abuse or not? Am I just checking off myself? Do they meet this definition? Well, that's not good enough. Again, research needs to be systematic. It needs to be something that's objective and really reflects the idea. So let's go through how to operationalize your concept. How do you actually measure it in a way that says whether that is there or not, or to what degree? So when you operationalize it, or when you make a variable operational, again, you're just making it work for research. You have to figure out what you're going to ask, how you ask it, what options people have to respond, and then you have to give it numbers. This is generally the process that most researchers follow when they operationalize. The rules that you need to understand is it needs to be observable. It needs to be precise. You need to identify how that information is going to be collected, what it represents, and understand that how you're operationalizing it is going to make a huge impact on what your research is. So in the next video, we're going to go through this sample research question: does substance abuse increase depression among online students? And we're going to operationalize the variables that are in this question.